Okay, my friends, welcome to another Living Oracle energy report, Akashic guidance for ascending souls. I'm coming at you on Tuesday, February 25th, but this energy report is going to be speaking about the astrology events and the energies that we are experiencing between Sunday, February 23rd and Saturday, March 1st. Let's say. No, let's just take it to Sunday, March 2nd, because why not? Anyways. But the nature of this energy report, the Living Oracle, is such that if you were to listen to this 5 years from now, you will hear guidance that is specifically correct for you in that specific time. This is timeless guidance, even though I am recording it at this moment. So please, listen onwards, make the most of this resource and absorb all of the guidance that is being brought to our awareness at this time, and know that it is not limited to these days that I've outlined on our bullshit calendar. Okay. Before I get into the cards that I pulled for the week, let me just say, praise Goddess and God, Mars is moving direct again. Thank all that is good and wonderful, because holy crap, that was intense. So technically the Mars retrograde is over insofar as it is no longer moving backwards, but we are still in the post-retrograde shadow. There's a pre-retrograde shadow and a post-retrograde shadow. And what that means is that essentially, this retrograde occurred between the degrees of 17 degrees of Cancer and 6 degrees of Leo. So the pre-shadow happened when Mars entered, when it hit 17 degrees of Cancer. And then it was still moving forward, but it was slowing down. When it hit 6 degrees of Leo at the beginning of December, that's when the retrograde started, meaning Mars started moving backwards, and it started to recover its tracks, move backwards through those early degrees of Leo back into the late degrees of Cancer. And on Sunday, February 23rd in the Northern Hemisphere, that's when it hit 17 degrees of Cancer again and started moving forward. So now the post-retrograde shadow is that we are recovering all of that, air quotes, lost ground. And the post-retrograde shadow is going to last until Mars passes 6 degrees of Leo again, which is happening May 2nd. And so that is when we well and truly are finished with this Mars retrograde. So we are not beyond the medicine. This is sort of like a delicate process of deep healing and integration. And to further sort of complicate matters, Venus is in her retrograde shadow period, pre-retrograde shadow, and she goes retrograde on March 1st. So no sooner do we finish the Mars retrograde, but Venus goes retrograde. Now, the Venus retrograde is probably on her own not going to feel quite as hard and painful and intense as the Mars retrograde. But it is still, essentially what's happening is, as of the spring, we could say as of May 2nd, when Mars leaves its post-retrograde shadow, that's when things really launch forward in a very big way. But we'll start to feel that momentum building before that, right? I think probably by the end of March, we'll start to really feel like things are picking up speed. Time is passing quickly, but I don't know how you're all experiencing it. I still feel like I felt the Mars retrograde. I actually felt it on the 22nd. On the 22nd, I was like, oh, things are moving forward now. This is amazing. And then they're moving forward, but it's not like we have, it's not like we have a ton of energy available to us. Like there's still a lot of work to do, you know? It's just that we're on the downhill slide now. So I think it's going to gain momentum and things are really going to feel like they are truly like moving forward for realsies in a way that feels exciting and good. Like on an action-based level. That's what I mean. Inwardly, you might be feeling that forward momentum, but outwardly, it still feels like things are slow and it's hard. Like for me, it just feels like it takes a billion years to do anything. And Mars stationed direct, but now I have a cold. So also please forgive all of my sniffling, but this energy report is too important to delay any further. So there's a shift in the direction. We're going to feel the energy build in its forward momentum, and we'll start to experience that in a way that is outwardly matching. Probably we'll start to experience it around the end of March. It's going to continue to pick up speed. By May, things are going to feel really like we are on a new path. By June, holy shit. I'm telling you, the first 6 months of this year is like the cosmos is just cleaning up house. The cosmos is done with our bullshit. It has plans and it's not waiting around for us to get off our duffs and get in alignment anymore. It's like, listen, you need to get in alignment. This is happening now. Because I have a 3-year-old Cancer male, a lot of these things are like, I have a very literal example of these energies in front of me at all times. And it's a little bit like when William is just being silly and he's not listening, and I've asked him a billion times to do something, and it's sort of like the cosmos is getting its mom voice on. Like, all right, done. Like, no more chances. We're doing this. I'm the grown-up. You're 3 years old. This is happening. We're doing it now. That's what the first 6 months of this year is all about. And I mean, technically it extends back into the last 2 months of 2024, where things really started to shift. But it's just like, we're the kid that's being made to clean up their room. And no, they are not allowed. We're not allowed to go outside and play until that room is clean, up to snuff. Like, it needs to be inspected. We may have to, like, tend to some things we missed. We're still in the cleanup phase right now. So Venus retrograde. So Mars is still integrating. It's healing, let's say. Venus is going retrograde this week, and it's all about her now. This is her time. This is her time to shine. The cards even reflect that. It's very, very interesting. And a lot of this is going to play out in terms of romantic relationships. A lot of it really actually is. But it's also just about our values and what we place value in. And the Venus is going retrograde first in Aries. So she's in Aries right now. This is not her happiest sign to be in, just like Cancer is not Mars's happiest sign to be in. But Mars is going to shift back into Leo, where he is much happier. And Venus is going to retrograde back into Pisces, where she is much happier. So the energies are a little bit right now, but they are going to start feeling better, even if we're still in the like healing and reevaluating process. But with the Venus retrograde starting in Aries and then moving back into Pisces and then moving forward again through Aries, this is really about, like, Venus in Aries is like, what do I want? And you have full permission to remove your consideration of your partner or others that you are entangled with right now. You're probably not making any solid, lasting decisions at the moment. I mean, maybe you are. Do what you got to do for you. But I mean, when you are thinking about this reevaluation process that the Venus retrograde is ushering in, you are invited during this part of it to think about number one. You think about you first. What do you want? What do you want? You've got to be all in on you. Okay, you've got to choose yourself and advocate for yourself and decide what you are not settling for any longer and what standard you are holding for yourself as the absolute gold standard moving forward, because nobody else is going to do that for you. It's not anyone else's responsibility. Even if you're like, you snagged one of those rare unicorn significant others that is just like the most considerate, the most kind, the most nurturing, is absolutely in your corner, like you have zero complaints. It's not that person's job to hold the standard for you of what you deserve and what you will accept for yourself. It's not fair to ask them to hold that standard for you. It's your job. So you have to think about number one right now. And it's not selfish. It is just being responsible. It's just being realistic about what your responsibility is. And just being realistic about the fact that even that unicorn, miraculous, perfect, ideal partner will eventually get burnt out and stop being able to hold that standard for you, because it's not their job. So it's actually a burden to them, whether they feel it that way right now or not. This is the perfect opportunity to lift that burden off of them and to be your own best friend, to look out for number one and determine what standard you are holding for yourself. And this is the perfect time to fall in love with yourself too. I know that sounds cheesy, but get the fuck over it. Honestly, it's not cheesy. There's nothing about you that is unlovable. You are not a perfect person. None of us is. There are things I'm sure that you regret, just as there are things that I regret. You are nonetheless completely lovable, completely lovable. You are the most mysterious, enticing, enigmatic, fascinating person in the world. Get to know yourself in that way, at that level. Do you realize that you will never fully know yourself in this lifetime? Even if you are completely devoted on like some kind of spiritual tantric life journey of complete self-love, you would still never fully plumb the depths of the mystery that is you, that is your soul. There is so much to you. And I hope that feels exciting to hear. It makes me sad to think about the number that the false matrix has done on us. How many people will probably hear that and just feel like you're the last person that you want to get to know better. You just need to heal that stuff now, because you cannot move forward on your highest timeline with those wounds going on. So, okay, I'm going to shift into I could speak exclusively about the Venus retrograde, but I'm going to shift into the cards, and some of the messages will get woven in because the cards really do reflect what is happening energetically right now. So the first card that I pulled from the tarot was the Queen of Cups, and I debated on whether I wanted to pull more cards from the tarot or not, but I had a peek at what they were, and I was like, oh yeah, they're meant to be talked about. So we've got the Queen of Cups coming in first, followed by the Page of Wands. And we've got the Wheel of Fortune anchoring all of this in as our major arcana card. And then I just pulled 2 oracle cards this week. That did feel like enough. So the first one is from Rebecca Campbell's Starseed Oracle, and it is Surrender to the Sweetness, Venus Energy, Pleasure, Joy, Make Love to Life. And the card that I pulled from Jeannine Burgess's Mandala Oracle, that beautiful, all of her beautiful hand-painted mandalas, I pulled Primal Nurturing. Connect to the root chakra to feel deep nurturing and safety. Sense the warmth of a mother's unconditional love, having all of your physical needs supported. Allow yourself to root deeply into this space of comfort to gather the nourishment needed in order to blossom into your full potential. Okay, so I've had this awareness ever since I learned about the Mars retrograde, that there is a really big shift there's a big healing happening between the imbalance of power that was created by the false matrix between the feminine and the masculine. So this Mars retrograde has been such a big deal because it mostly happened in the sign of Cancer, which is the sign of the feminine and the mother and the child. Mars is the masculine energy. It's not men as a group of people, but it is the masculine energy that we all carry within us. And it was like a huge humbling and a huge healing and release and catharsis for the masculine. And it's like, I feel as though the real gift of the Mars retrograde is like the divine masculine being unleashed from the programs of the patriarchy, the wounded masculine programs of the patriarchy. We will see this play out as it unfolds over the coming weeks, months, and years. But that's actually what happened, is that the programming of the patriarchy actually dissolved. It's not something that will instantly be recognized by all men. Like if you are hearing this and you are like, I don't know, the men in my life are still acting like assholes, that's because they're unconscious. Like it's going to take time for them to wake up from the spell of all the wounding the patriarchy created. And the patriarchy, again, from my perspective, is a false matrix program. It's not the creation of like human beings with penises. It is a false matrix program. So that program has dissolved, and the majority of the masculine energy on Earth has transcended that program. But it was a very, very painful process for that final liberation to occur. And as such, the masculine is now in almost like, I would say like a submission to the feminine, like is bowing to the feminine and allowing the feminine to step up and take her rightful place. Sorry, I had to break to blow my nose. The masculine is in sort of like deference would be a better way of putting it, because submission slightly carries this like energetic frequency of potentially being misunderstood as, you know, one being over the other, but it's not that. That's the whole point. It's not that. The feminine is not higher than the masculine, and the masculine is not higher than the feminine, and we cannot proceed without these two polarities being brought into balance within us, because they are prime polarities in the world. In the universe, there are 3 sets of prime polarities: dark and light, masculine, feminine, or feminine, whatever. Dark and light, feminine, masculine, angelic, and dragon. Those are the 3 prime polarities that exist all throughout the universe, and they have to be brought into balance. And these are 2 that have been very out of balance on Earth, as I'm sure I don't need to tell you. So the masculine, maybe rather than using the word submission, he is in deference, like he is bowing in deference to the feminine and allowing the feminine to finally rise into her unhindered exaltation, where she doesn't have to fight for it. She doesn't have to fight for herself. She is rising into, like, you know, a place of being accepted and celebrated effortlessly. So the Queen of Cups is the feminine. She's just stepping forward. She is in all of her beautiful, ethereal, psychic, emotional power, and she is being celebrated as such. The masculine is the Page of Wands. He is kind of like, I am the child right now, and I am submitting in deference to my mother. I am bowing in exaltation of my mother. I mean, it doesn't obviously, it's so hard talking about these things. I'm sure you're all like, Amy, shut up, get on with it. But it's hard talking about it because I don't know who's listening and I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say. And I know so many of you do, but it is, the masculine is still in his inner child where the original wounding took place. And he now has much clearer sight, much, much, much clearer sight. And through that clear sight, he sees his mother, his true mother, not his wounded mother, his true mother. And it's also his lover. It's also his sister. It's also his grandmother. You know, it's like, it's every role that the feminine plays. And he sees it now. He sees it and he's like, oh, I love you. I bow to you. I exalt you. And I'm sorry. And the Wheel of Fortune as the major arcana card is really just talking about on the individual levels and the way that this is literally playing out in our individual lives, and on the grander sort of like soul evolutionary, consciousness evolutionary cycles. This is the turn of the wheel that has been needed for so long. Like we don't have, I know some of you may argue this, but we don't actually have a need for angry feminism anymore. And again, we can't expect to see it across all men everywhere, because this isn't about men against women. This is about the energies within us and them being brought into balance. But we don't have a need for angry feminism anymore, because at this very deep energetic level, the programs of the patriarchy were dissolved. The spell of the patriarchy has been dismantled. And the masculine can now proceed in his exaltation, but part of the process of stepping into his exaltation is to not exalt himself, but to exalt the feminine. So, I mean, this is playing out in a very, very literal way in my personal life. So I'm guessing that it's probably playing out in a very literal way for a lot of you. But it's also playing out in this way on the grander scale. And this is something so beautiful to be celebrated. Now, I wasn't able to do the energy report last week, to my regret, for this particular podcast, but instead I spoke about it in the kind of like introduction of my main podcast, which is Third Eye Awakening. It was the episode about White Moon Selena, but I was talking about how this is a pivotal time. This is like this year, 2025, this is not a joke. This is not the same thing as all the other years when I've been like, it's go time, get in alignment, blah, blah, blah. All of that was in the building anticipation of where we are now. Now it is actually go time. Like all of your excuses, you need to get over them and heal your shit. And I'm not kidding. I don't care if you think that I sound unfeeling or privileged or whatever, what have you. I just mean that all of those things, you don't want to take them forward. And we are literally entering a new timeline. The way I described it on the main podcast was that we're moving across the thresholds between an era. It's Taylor Swift kind of ruined that word. So now it just sounds like, or whatever. There's a lot of memes and shit like, oh, this is my slut era or whatever. No, that is not what I mean when I use the term era. I mean an eon of time. I mean the next 1,000 years is starting now. It's starting now. The next... English. It's so hard. It's so hard. We are choosing and creating the timeline for the next era / eon of time, not only on earth, but within the cosmos. And it is similar to the period where Christ existed. And I really believe, have seen, have received this message over and over and over, that the Christ consciousness has returned. This is the return of Christ that has been prophesied and waited for, but it is not a single person. At the time of Christ, all of that energy was focused and concentrated in the figures of Jesus and Mary Magdalene. I'll say Jesus and Mary because it was Mary Magdalene who is his divine counterpart, his divine lover, and Mother Mary as his mother, because that is woman. That is the feminine, right? So it was focused into 2 individuals, 3 individuals, whatever. Now, at this time, it is spread out among many of us so that it can be less, it's basically so it can't get distorted the same way that it did the last time, where it got distorted and Jesus was exalted as a figure to worship. And that's not what was intended at all. What was intended was to initiate humanity into that level of consciousness that we are all capable of and we all have access to. It was not about worshiping an individual as God on earth. It was about them, because it also wasn't just about Jesus, them showing us what we are capable of. And so this time we returned and we have it all spread out amongst many of us. So A, it doesn't hinge, it's not contingent upon any individual or small number of individuals. And B, so that it doesn't get distorted and the obsession isn't projected onto one person as though they somehow are above everyone else. That's completely missing the message. Anyway, so this is a very important time that we are living through. And that's why we need to go through this whole period of the cosmos telling us that it's time to clean up our damn room and we cannot go out to play until it is clean. Because we need to bring ourselves into divine alignment with the blueprint of our soul. There is nothing more important. The blueprint of your soul is perfect. It's exactly what you should be living by. But the false matrix conditions us to live by a whole bunch of other nonsensical, completely and utterly arbitrary and nonsensical values and priorities. Nothing matters more than the alignment with your blueprint. That's all you have to do is align with your blueprint. That's all. So that's what's happening right now. The astrology is insisting. It is setting up every opportunity for us to align with our blueprint. For some people, they are, able to flow with it and it feels more enjoyable than terrible, although I'm sure still humbling. It feels very humbling for me. For others, especially those who are not awake or who just feel strong fear and resistance, it's much more uncomfortable. But it's ultimately all happening for us. This is all a process of soul alignment. The wheel is turning. It's very important that it turns. And this is what we all want anyway. Any of you who are listening to this is what you want. This is what we want. We want this new era. We want this new eon. I can't use the word era. Damn Taylor Swift. We want this new eon. It's literally why we came. It's literally why we are incarnated. As usual, I could talk forever, but I'm really, I say this every week, but I'm trying to respect your time and not go on and on and on. But there's just so many codes that want to come through. Oh, it's so hard. Okay, so moving into the oracle cards. Literally, it is surrender to the sweetness. It says on the card, Venus energy, pleasure, joy, make love to life. And then the other oracle card is primal nurturing, and it's talking about the warmth of the mother's unconditional love, having all of your physical needs supported. Allow yourself to root deeply into this space of comfort to gather the nourishment needed in order to blossom into your full potential. Oh my God. Okay. It's so the activation and the codes and the healing is so deep. I don't even know if I can possibly bring it through verbally and do it justice. Okay. So number one, this is Venus's moment. Okay. So Mars is taking a back seat. So if you think you're just going to rocket forward in your wounded masculine energy of accomplishing, think again. Mars is still in Cancer. He's moving forward, but he is still very humbled in the sign of Cancer, and he's just taken a beating in that Mars retrograde. He's going to move forward slowly, and he's going to move forward in a way that is much more emotionally connected and integrated. And so we need to harmonize with that and notice where the ego is like, oh God, finally I can move forward. This is Venus's turn. This is the feminine's turn. So Mars is still taking a back seat. He's kind of licking his wounds, essentially. He's licking his wounds, and we love him through it. We love the masculine. We are shifting into loving the masculine. And we, as part of this healing process, are recognizing and releasing all of the false matrix propagated narratives and beliefs that we have, that the masculine is untrustworthy, that the masculine is somehow gross. Like we have to be the ones to heal and transmute that. We can't wait for somebody else to do it. We're not waiting for somebody to legislate it. Obviously, that's never going to happen. Like we are all responsible for the change that is occurring. It happens through us. That's why we came. That's why we incarnated, to be physically embodied through this alchemical transformation process. So we are loving Mars as he licks his wounds, and we are not asking him to resume old wounded patterns and start producing as a measurement of worthiness and success. We are letting him take it slow, and we are letting his healing have the time that it needs. Venus is in her full glory. She's like, it's all about me right now. It's all about me. And Venus also wants us to slow down. Venus wants us to reevaluate what matters to us on the fundamental levels. Venus wants you to give yourself the luxury of deep, slow presence so that you can actually experience what you enjoy and what you don't. So rather than just gulping down your morning coffee, sit and sip it and feel it travel down your throat. Feel the heat of the mug between your hands and tune into yourself. Do you actually enjoy this coffee? Is it truly pleasurable to you? Or are you drinking it because of the wounded masculine paradigms that we have been programmed to function by? Do you feel like you need this coffee, whether you actually like it or not, to kickstart your energy because you're so burnt out by the absurd schedule of constant productivity that we have all agreed to live by, which is a false matrix program and it's utter and total bullshit? Or do you love this coffee? Either way is fine. Like, you're allowed to love your coffee, but let yourself love your coffee. Let yourself love it. Notice where you might be rushing through it because of the masculine wounding. And let yourself slow down. And do that with everything. Do you love the fabric of the clothing that you choose to adorn yourself with? Do you love the jewelry or the watches or the accessories that you choose? Do you love the feeling of your sheets and your blankets? and that, it's going to be different for everybody. You don't have to be a high luxury person. I'm not a high luxury person. There are certain things that I consider luxuries and I value those, but they aren't the same thing that, like we typically think of in terms of luxury. One of my luxuries is beeswax candles. I just love the smell of beeswax candles when they're lit and they're burning through the winter. I love it. I love beeswax candles. That is a luxury to me. I love dark chocolate. Oh, I love it. Oh, I have this favorite type of dark chocolate. That's a luxury to me. Like truly a luxury. So it's just about feeling into those things and softening and dropping into presence and not rushing through life, not skimming the surface. Do you know how much is available to us in any given moment? Like on a sensory level to experience in any given moment. There is like we process probably, I think 10% is generous. I really do. I think we probably process more accurately 1% or less than 1% of what is available to us as a sensory experience, never mind like an internally felt non-physical experience in any given moment. But we're just operating in this like, what's it called? Like a cruise control, autopilot mode of surface level processing and just rushing through life, just existing at the surface. And then like the crazy thing about it is that so many of us still have money wounding and we bitch about how we don't have enough, but we are the ones who are absolutely ignoring everything that is given to us in every single moment. There's so much here. There's so much that is already here. There's so much to take in, but we have to slow down. And that's the beauty of Mars, like this Venus retrograde and Mars retrograde overlapping, even though in a lot of ways it feels hard because it's ushering in a lot of change at a deep identity level and a reshuffling of our lives. And that always feels scary and hard. But the beauty of this overlap is that it is creating a period of slowness, a sustained period of slowness. And it gets to feel sweet. It gets to, but you have to choose it. I'll never be able to overemphasize the fact that we have free will. And that means that you get to choose whether this moment is full of sweetness or you're just ignoring it and rushing through it. The choice is yours. You are in the driver's seat. And there are moments in life that are much darker and much harder and more painful, but they have their own exquisiteness within them too. It can just be harder to find those, but they are there. So there is a sweetness. It's this, like Venus wants you to romance yourself, especially while she is, gearing up to start this week on March 1st, transiting backwards into Aries. She's like, you are your romantic partner. You are romancing yourself. You are making love to life. You are making love to the universe. You are making love to the process of the experience of being a human. You're deciding what feels good for you, what you want for you, what matters to you. And if you're partnered, you have her full permission to not think about what this would mean for your significant other. You don't have to take action from that. It's just like, I know in partnership, we often tend to limit our own exploration of what we even really want. We don't give ourselves permission because we feel like we can't, because we assume that what we want won't be supported by our significant other, or that it would inconvenience them. Or for example, like sometimes I think about moving to the town that I've always wanted to live in. And it's not super far away from here, but it's far enough away that like I couldn't keep my kids in the same school. And that makes me sad. And so I'll catch myself like blocking that dreaming and that imagining because I want to put them first. But Venus in Aries is saying, like, don't worry about it. You do you. Think about you. Like, let yourself fully explore and think about what would be your highest timeline, yours. And just suspend your disbelief for a minute. Just imagine, like, oh my God, somehow by a magic that I don't even know and can't explain, my highest timeline is also the highest timeline for my children, for my partner, for whomever else I feel that I'm entangled with, that I normally put them before me. You just imagine the highest timeline for yourself. Give yourself full permission, and that will bring you the clarity that you need in order to start dreaming it into being. Because that's what the Venus retrograde is about once she moves back into Pisces, which I'll go into later. Sorry, hold on, let me pause. I will not subject you to this noise. I really had to snorkel there. Okay, so primal nurturing. You know that Louis C.K. bit before he got canceled or something like that? Where he had this joke about how we need money and jobs and stuff, and God is like, what are you talking about? Like the earth is literally covered in food. I put food everywhere. Like, what do you mean? That is the energy that we are being invited to root and anchor ourselves into moving forward from here. It's a big leap of faith. But in order for us to create the highest timeline for this new eon, we have to get beyond the very traumatizing false matrix program that would have us believe that existing on Earth is insecure, unpredictable, and dangerous on a physical level. God, I'm sorry, this energy report is not short at all, but this has to be said. This earth is so gentle. She is so loving. She is truly the mother. We have been poisoned against our mother. We have been poisoned to believe that she is violent and unpredictable and cruel, and that she hates us, and that we can't find food and we can't find shelter, and the elements are so so devastating to us. It's a program. Because we've been so heavily programmed with it, we manifest it. And the false matrix controllers have been turning up the dials on extreme weather events. They call it climate change so that we won't question it. And it has the, added benefit of causing us to hate ourselves and walk around feeling guilt and shame for something that is ultimately not our fault or within our control. They've been turning up the dial on the weather events, the extreme weather events, to reinforce this feeling that life on Earth as a human is dangerous. It's not true. It is a poison program that poisons us against our mother, who loves us so deeply and provides for us continuously and constantly with unending bounty and adoration and love. She loves all life here, all manifestations of her beautiful self. She provides. We humans are the only ones that seem to need to battle against the elements of nature. Why? Because we are the ones who create realities, and therefore our consciousness has been hijacked and we have been poisoned with a program that would have us feel that we need to battle, we need to change, we need to alter Earth. That, like, okay, I'm going to say this. This is something I've been sitting on for a long time. And I don't say it because I know a lot of people are going to think I'm straight up crazy. And also, I have so much love and respect for farmers and gardeners. Like, so much. But I believe that agriculture was a gift of the false matrix. Because the earth is already covered in food that produces itself passively. There are many cultures on earth that understand this and live in a much greater state of balance and harmony and prosperity than we do with our mass agricultural practices. They're based on false matrix programs, and we have to override them. Now, the overriding always starts from within ourselves. So I'm not asking anybody to boycott farmers. I love farmers. I'm also not saying that we shouldn't garden or we shouldn't plant seed. There's nothing. That's not at all what I'm saying. I'm not saying you have to take action. Mars is still in Cancer, in shadow, okay? We don't have to take outward action. But within ourselves, we need to start dissolving that poison program that has us believing that our mother, that we are abandoned by our mother, that she is cruel, that she doesn't care. If you had that actual experience with your mother, it's probably going to feel even more intense. But we have to make our peace with being in a human body, physically incarnated on earth, in order to transmute this experience into what it truly can be. And believe me when I say, I still haven't been able to figure out how to translate it into words, but what this realm can be is so exquisitely beautiful, bountiful, abundant, universally prosperous. And we are the ones who are leading the way back to that timeline, to that expression. Okay, this energy report has gone on long enough. There's a little bit of light language that wants to come through. Ke toro hatra I fino atai kuro era shi uno te asa I kuro tera atroati o I salwenti farui ke uroha shunio te era I sono tar shurio ai akinoro te I horo te a sania te kuro itoia I kono ara sefa I tono alwentera keo. Okay, my beautiful friends, I so hope you enjoy this energy report. As always, I love to hear back from you. I love to hear how it lands. I love to hear how you're doing. I love it so much. It just, when I'm recording this alone in my office, I often sort of wonder like who it's landing with and if it's even worth doing it. And it just makes all the difference when I hear back from you. So if you feel so inclined this week to let me know how you're doing and how this lands, I would appreciate it very much. And then if you are feeling what I'm saying about aligning with your soul blueprint, I have been working so hard at creating the most amazing, like mind-blowing, results-oriented, like transformational program called the Soul Purpose Incubator. I've been setting it up to really put the power in your hands so that you are not dependent on me, but where you also get support and just total confirmation and clarity and activations. And when I say that you will have absolute crystal clarity in a hyper detailed way about your soul blueprint, your soul purpose, and your soul mission, it's still an understatement. Like, the results so far that I've been testing are mind-blowing. So I'm going to be opening up the doors to a beta round for this next week. The doors are going to be open for a very short period of time. It's a beta round insofar as I'm putting it at a lower price so that I can collect testimonials and just feel into how I want this to flow and how I want it to work. And so as such, the price is going to be lower. And also there are only so many spots available. So just keep your eyes open for that. I am going to be sending out emails and like social media posts inviting you to join the wait list if you want to really snag your spot. But this is truly a game changer, what I've created. I'm so proud of it. I'm so excited. This is a game changer. This is a game-changing year. Nothing is going to be the same from June onward. And so we might as well change the game consciously. And you might as well learn what your soul blueprint is with no uncertainty so that you can move forward in the highest alignment. Okay, so keep your eyes open for that. I love you guys so much. I hope that you have an amazing week, and I will catch you in the next Living Oracle Energy Report.